Hi there, my name's Tony Jolly, Tonyjolley, or if you prefer, Tonygolley. I'm your teacher for the option unit that you have chosen on L3 called Introduction to Business. Now, most of you in the class are going to be English students of English, who have encountered my wife, Ellen Chu Jolly, and know a lot about Shakespeare, a lot about English grammar, a lot about English, American literature and civilization. Terrific. But you are approaching L3, where you're beginning to ask the question, well, what do I do now? Where do I take my English? How am I going to use it? In what kind of domains? Well, translation and interpretation is clearly one. Perhaps teaching is another. And conceivably, business will be another as well. Here we are in the European Union, and we live on the edge of, we're part of Dreieckland. We have Euro Airport serving 3 countries, so we have ample opportunity to use our English in a significant way. Obviously, we also have Strasbourg within our département. So there are lots of opportunities for international business and international government where you may be able to use your English. But the question is, do you know enough about business to be credible? What do I mean by that? Well, if somebody talks to you about a marketing schedule, if somebody talks to you about a business plan, if somebody talks to you about doing research into business trends, would you know what they are on about? What is the break-even point for this business? What is your profit margin? How do you set up a brand that people will be aware of and recognize? There's lots and lots and lots of questions. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You need to be able to apply your English. To be able to do that, you need to be able to understand the context in which you're going to use it. Okay, so I'm hoping that in this course, you could and should be able to develop that kind of competence, okay? So where are my materials going to be? Well, you should perhaps have encountered by now my website, which is called, strangely enough, Tonyversity, Tonyversity, Tonyversity. Its address is www.tonyversity.com/students. students. Please don't forget the word students, otherwise you go to another part of my online empire. There is no need for a password. There is no need for a login. You just need to remember how to spell and how to bookmark www.tonyversity.com/students. Simple as that. What you will then find on there are materials that I'm putting there for you, or linking to my website for you, and quite a lot of material that, like this video, I'm putting on my YouTube channel, and I will build links for you to access them on my website, and from time to time I'll also be sending you instructions with links again built in so that you can go and find some mini lectures there. The maximum lecture time that I can do for files on YouTube is about 25 minutes, okay? So you're not going to find a 2-hour lecture on there. Don't panic. There'll be things between 6 or 7 minutes and about 20 minutes. If you need to contact me, by the way, I do have an address. My name is actually not just Tony, it's Anthony. So if you seek an Anthony Jolly on the university's annuaire for staff, you will find the address Anthony, Anthony, Jolly, Jolley, @ UHA But it's going to be a lot simpler for you to remember the following one, which is just TJOLLEY at gmail.com. tjolly at gmail.com. Okay, so I would like you, if you would, now to pause this video. Would you go to the Tonyversity address I've given you, and would you bookmark or add this to your favorites so you don't have to remember the address all the time? It would perhaps help if you did this on your laptop, your tablet, your machine at home, or indeed your telephone, although my website isn't very well optimized for use on a telephone. Okay, once you've done that, if you put me and this video in the corner of your screen and you look at the Tonyversity website, you will see that along the top of it there is a menu, and you will see that on this menu there are a list of faculties where I teach. Now clearly I'm teaching you at the FLS ASH faculty, the Fac des Lettres, so if you move your cursor along and you hover over this faculty name, FLS ASH, you will see a whole lot of links tumble out, 5 or 6 of them. One of them is Introduction to Business. If you scroll down to that and just hover over it, you will see a spring out menu with a list of things in it, most of which are called blocks. So what I'm going to want you to do is to start work on these blocks one by one, and I will be giving you instructions on how to do it. I have got another video on what the blocks are, but very briefly, they are quite simply ways in which we can learn together, which involves me setting something up, probably with a video, some written equipment and some links, and then you doing some work and perhaps me being able to help you in the middle of doing that work, and then you presenting some work in one form or another. Could be a recorded presentation, could be an audio file, could be a PowerPoint, might be a website, could be anything. Then the final part of the block would be me listening to that or marking it, and then giving you your mark and detailed feedback individually and as teams or as a group as to how well you've done. So we start off here, pretty much me, and then me and you, and then pretty much me at the end of it. So each block will work like that. How long are the blocks? Well, possibly 3 weeks. Possibly the bit in the middle might take rather longer as we're dealing with it online and I can't be there in the classroom with you. So it may be week 1, me setting things up, week 2, 3, 4, you getting on with it, discussing with each other in class if you wish, or at distance, and then presenting to me and me sending you materials and feedback as I have just promised. So that's how it's essentially going to work. And there are going to be a number of blocks. The first one, after we've got through the introductory stuff, the first one is going to be about the enterprise, the business, in its environment in the widest sense. What is business about? Is it a science, or is it an art? Is it a combination of those things? Why are we engaged in business? Well, if you turn the clock back just a moment or two, say 150, 200 years, 85% of people were self-employed. We worked for ourselves. Huge corporations and global employment is a modern phenomenon, but who's to say we won't change it in the future and more of us become self-employed? So I'm going to ask you about what are the trends going on in society and culture, in technology, where are we heading with technology, in the natural environment, outside, global warming, etc. What is that doing to us? In the economy, how is the economy changing who we are, what we do, what we're prepared to spend, where we spend our money, with whom we spend our money, how much money we do spend, and why we spend it on what we do. So I'm going to try to teach you a little bit about the art of what business is, and then I'm going to ask you to look at the world in its widest senses and try to work out where it's going, and to think, what are the opportunities for existing businesses and maybe for completely new businesses? What are the opportunities for them? Yes. But also, what are the up and coming threats for existing businesses? Are they the type of threats that they can counter, they can overcome, or should they be getting out of their businesses now and into something else? So our first block is going to be about the enterprise in its global environment. So this is mainly about you developing the skills of research, analysis and evaluation, and being perhaps creative in identifying what the problems will be for businesses, or what the opportunities are, and creative about how to overcome the opportunities, how to seize the opportunities and how to overcome the threats. Our second block. Well, this is related to the first one. Why and how? Well, as a result of the first one, I'm going to ask you in small teams, pairs maybe, depending on how big the group is, I'm going to ask you to think of a business opportunity that you could potentially develop. And I'm going to then develop the rest of the course around how you would go about developing that opportunity. So the first thing is going to be to identify what that opportunity is. Perhaps we'll brainstorm a whole load of opportunities, business ideas, and together with me and your colleagues, you can evaluate them and put them in a league table. Which are the ones that are likely to be most successful and why? Then I'm going to ask you in pairs or teams to choose one and then move on to the next phase, which is identifying what this business project is, what your product is, what your market is, and to put together the outline of a business proposition that you can take to funding sources. And we're going to have fun, as in funding, with this, because I'm going to ask you to present this to the Dragon's Den. If you look online, there is a TV program called Dragon's Den where people get a very short period of time to pitch, to introduce a business idea to a group of entrepreneurs who've made millions in their own right and who may be prepared to each invest £250,000, euros, dollars in you and your business idea. So I'm going to ask you to pitch your idea at them. After that, block 3 moves on to marketing. Okay, so you've got your business idea, you've thought about your product, but you really need to think in incredible detail about who your market is. To be able to identify there may be more than one market that you are aiming at. What are the characteristics of the people who make up your market? Who is Mr. or Mrs. or Miss or Master typical target for you? How do you develop a brand, a name, a logo, an identity, a website that will appeal directly to who your target market is, or who they are, and what they want? It's not about just being able to produce a website. It's going to be about being able to communicate with them your wow factor and for them to see it and feel it and respond positively to it. To go from being aware to being interested, to go from being interested to desire something, and to move from desire to action, actually buying your particular product, hopefully on a regular basis as a loyal client. So I'm going to ask you to produce a website that directly represents your product to your chosen market. The next one's going to be about employment. Now I'm going to leap off your particular business idea and project here because I'm going to bring this down to the individual, you. Human resources clearly are incredibly important. Technology is all very well, but it's people who have the creative business ideas. It's people getting out of bed in the morning, having a coffee, getting on the train, and coming up with a wonderful idea that really works. It's not businesses make profits, it's the cumulative effect of people like me and you that make those decisions, that have those ideas, that actually make the business successful, which is represented in another form by measures like sales, turnover, profit, growth, terms like that. So I'm going to ask you to focus on you. I'm going to teach you about the way that businesses look at employment, especially recruitment and selection, and why it is becoming, as you would say in French, primordial. We don't use the word in English, by the way. Why it is becoming essential to get the right person for the right post. It costs far too much if a company doesn't. That means employers are changing the way they recruit and changing the way they select. If you understand that, you should be a much better applicant and a much better interviewee with a much more successful career. What I'm going to say to you is going to sound very different to anything you've heard before, I promise you. So I'm going to prepare you for that. I'm going to be asking you to do CVs and covering letters, and quite conceivably, if we can manage this with distance, or we're back to face-to-face work by then, I'm going to ask you to be interviewed by one of your colleagues and me, and another of your colleagues will be acting as rapporteur to give you positively constructive feedback on your interview technique, and then we'll rotate the roles. You will also be a rapporteur and you will also be an interviewer, and all three of those will get marks. There's also a role play here. I'm going to put you in the guise of directors of a company that I've created called Colmarco. And this company is suffering from quite a number of problems and decisions that it has to make. This is going to require you to look at the company using the skills you've generated, develop some critical analysis, and make recommendations to me as the boss of the company as to what I should do with it and why, and what the shape of my company should be looking like in the future. So you're going to become directors of divisions and directors of brands of a multi-million-dollar company. And I will be looking for you to make it leaner, fitter, faster, and more rapidly growing than it ever has been. So I can spend more time on the beach, certain that my investments are in safe hands, yours. Finally, we're going to be looking, if we have the time, at something you know very well because you're experiencing, like I am, discontinuities. Particularly COVID. It's something that's come out of nowhere, and it's changing us as individuals, who we are, what we think, what we want, what we're prepared to do, what we're prepared to risk, what we're not prepared to do and not prepared to risk. It's changing businesses dramatically as a result. So what do we learn from dealing with discontinuities through our own personal and professional experience with COVID? Because the one thing is certain, Discontinuities are always going to be there. As I wrote this morning on my website, discontinuities in one sense are normal. I know they challenge what we believe is normal and stable, but over time, nothing is normal for very long. So in your life, you're going to come across all sorts of discontinuities. Are there different ways of dealing with them, or is there a general way of dealing with them and handling them to our best ability? What do we learn through our experience as consumers and our experience seeing businesses and governments handle COVID? What can we put to one side that is in our pocket for when we need it? So there we go. That's the digest of this unit, and I'm trying to do as much as I can to fit you for the workplace. I've taught on 4-year degrees and master's programs in business. I have you for 48 hours possibly. I'm trying to do a lot. I can't cover everything, but I want to be able to make you credible in the world of business. And I hope if you take this course, even at distance, you'll succeed in being credible when it comes to working and being interviewed and applying for posts in the business world. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.